guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. If you're new here, my name is Patty. I make lots of videos about books and also sometimes my life, my lifestyle, working out, balancing work and life and everything, but mostly videos about books. And today's video is actually going to be a summer book recommendation video. So books that, you know, give summer vibes that I read in the summer and I loved and I feel like really felt, you know, like it was good timing and everything. I also want to say, if you watch my videos, I have been gone for like 3 weeks. I usually post either once or twice a week, and I have been kind of falling off that wagon just because honestly I've kind of been incredibly unmotivated to read lately. I think with just all my hobbies and focusing on my self-care and everything and work, I think I've just been kind of overwhelmed. And also, I'm in the middle of reading Kingdom of Ash from the Throne of Glass series, and honestly the last like 300 pages have kind of put me in a reading slump, and I'm literally less than 100 pages away, and I was so excited, and I still am. I'm gonna be posting a reading vlog hopefully for this book, and I was hoping to finish the book in less than a month, and it's actually been over 2 months now, so you know, this has kind of been a really slow process. And I've also, obviously, once I finish that book, I'm gonna get into a new book and get super excited about reading that. So hopefully that ends soon. But anyway, just wanted to give that preface and why I've been, you know, MIA for a bit if you subscribe to me at all or watch my videos consistently. But either way, let's get into the video. And other disclaimer, for this video in particular, I actually haven't read all of these books, but I do know the general idea, the synopsis vibes of these books, and therefore I feel like I somewhat can give a recommendation on this book specifically for summer. Starting off really strong with the first book, and I actually haven't read this book, but this is next on my reading list after I finish Kingdom of Ash, is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So this book is about a tennis player, really world famous professional tennis player, and she's Latina. Hey yo. So she is incredible at her sport, recently retired, and kind of retired on top at like her peak in her career. She beat a world record or something along those lines. And while she's in retirement, a new up-and-coming rising star in tennis beats her record. And so she, being her competitive, crazy self, is like, hell no, I'm coming out of retirement to reinstate my record because there's no way that someone else is going to beat my record after everything that she went through. And basically it's just her balancing her love for tennis, her relationships, and her just being her badass self. So I'm super excited to read this. I've heard so many amazing things, and also just after watching the Challengers movie with Zendaya, Mike Feist, and Josh O'Connor, I think that has kind of made me like watching tennis a little more, so I think it'd be fun to read a book about tennis. Next book I also have not read, and that is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. And this book is a romance. I know a lot of people kind of give romance book recommendations throughout the summer, but honestly it's kind of hard not to, because romances are typically so bright and fun and, you know, just lighthearted, and I feel like that's what summer is about versus like fall and winter. I feel like those are definitely like the darker months. Bright, beautiful, sunny days mean beautiful romance book. If you're unfamiliar with The 7-Year Slip, it is essentially kind of magical realism / time travel. It kind of reminds me, the synopsis at least from what I know, reminds me of The Time Traveler's Wife, but without all the bad parts in it, if you are familiar with why people don't really like that book / movie. Anyway, aside from that, the main character, her name is Clementine. Her aunt passes away. She inherits her late aunt's apartment, who she has always said is so magical and everything, and the main character is like, yeah, magical, like you make it so magical, but little does she know, like, no, she means it's really magical because every so often the apartment goes 7 years back in time. And in those 7 years, the 7-year slip, when she goes 7 years back in time, she meets a man who was living in this apartment in that like time rift, I guess what you can call it. But basically her aunt knew this man and was like, yeah, you could live in this apartment like 7 years in the past, because like it doesn't matter because she's not living there, and like her niece wasn't living there. But anyway, she meets this man, falls in love with him eventually. So that is the romance of this book, and I think it's fun with the magical realism and everything. It makes it more exciting. So recommend. The next book, another romance, a little more on the sad side, as in it's really great in the beginning and it ends off kind of like in heartbreak, but it's still such a good movie. It's set in summer and in Italy, and it is Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his last name, but that's how I will. So I actually watched the movie before I read the book, and I kind of wish I did it the other way around, as like everyone says about literally every book and movie, but I still enjoyed it. I think it's a beautifully told story. And also, if you are unfamiliar with the story at all, there is quite a large age gap between the two main characters. So, you know, if you are not at all interested in reading between an age gap, it does have a lot of heartbreak. It does have the idea of, you know, kind of hiding your true self, especially because it's a gay romance, if I didn't say that before. But basically, a younger guy whose father is a professor is hosting a grad student who's doing research in his same field. That grad student is played by Armie Hammer. The son is played by Timothée Chalamet, and, you know, they fall in love, but it's like hard for them to admit it at first because neither of them realizes like each other is gay, and it's hard to like figure that out. But like once they do, it's like hard to keep it hidden and everything, and keep those feelings down when like they're trying to hide it from everyone. But anyway, beautiful story in my opinion, and a beautiful movie, so I recommend. Next book is another gay love story, which I guess is a theme of the summer, because actually now that I think about it, there's a third gay love story in this list, but this is the second one that I'm going to talk about. It is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Essentially, this book revolves around Greek mythology and the love story between Achilles and Patroclus. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it is also a gay love story. There's lots of adventure and, you know, someone being exiled from their home and forced proximity and everything like that. But it's kind of a super sweet story, and everything being surrounded by Greek mythology and all that history. I think it's a really awesome book to read, and it was quite a beautiful story, so I recommend. The next book that I'm gonna recommend is actually a thriller. And I have not read this one either, but this is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. This book follows a podcaster who brings people on and interviews them if they're gonna have a substantial, like, crazy change in their life, and follows their journey and like everything that's been going on through that transition in their life. And the podcaster is approached by a woman who was like, hey, I would like to come on your podcast. I'm about to do something crazy with my life, but I'm not gonna tell you. And the podcaster goes, you know, I'm a little skeptical, but okay, I will allow it. And essentially a bunch of crazy things happen from there. And I hear that this book is incredibly captivating. Like, everyone I've heard talk about this book says like they couldn't put it down, like they read it so quickly, and just like all the twists and turns are kind of really hard to predict. So this will keep you on the edge of your seat, and I'm excited to read this at some point. The last physical book that I have is A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. And I feel like it's really hard to recommend fantasy during the summer months because, as I mentioned previously, that like fall, winter are definitely darker months, and I feel like fantasy books kind of usually revolve around darker themes, since there's usually like war, politics involved, like death and everything, and, you know, crazy things happen basically. But I feel like this book, honestly, it does have a lot of crazy things, but just the setting in general being, this is kind of another book revolving around mythology, but it's Norse mythology. And the main character is someone who was born with a drop of blood from a Norse god, and therefore she is powerful. She has a certain power, and most people don't have powers or anything. They aren't related whatsoever to any of the Norse gods, but her power is something that is really sought after, and a bunch of people basically think that their fate is tied in with hers. And so she's kind of a hot commodity. Like, everyone wants to get her in their hands basically and enslave her. So it is her journey. There's romance in here and everything, and it's kind of crazy, but I definitely think that the vibes in general are like a little brighter and not as dark. So I think this is a good summer read. The last recommendations I have are actually on my Kindle. I'm sorry if you can hear Iris licking. She's desperate to lick me. But let me just go to my home. And by the way, look at my cute Kindle stickers. They're all Fourth Wing. and the other one says hot girls read books, because hot girls do read books. So the first recommendation on my Kindle that I have is actually another thriller, and it's The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I'll insert a picture right here if you are unfamiliar with the book cover, but I feel like this book is incredibly popular. This book was recommended to me by my boyfriend's sister, so shout out Nora if you're watching this. Thank you for the recommendation. I think certain thrillers, if they're not too dark, definitely fit summer, because it's like summer is so fast-paced and fun and cool, and not necessarily that this book is fun, but because it's not as dark as some other ones, I think it's cool to read. So this book follows the main character, I forget her name, but essentially she recently was released from prison, and because she was a convicted felon, it's hard for her to find a job, and she's basically going to take whatever she can find, and she comes across what seems like a really good job, really high paying housemaid job, and she is being forced to live in this attic, really creepy, really small space, locks from the outside, so somebody could lock her in and she wouldn't even know, doesn't have any ventilation, barely any light or anything, and the mom of the house, who's a stay-at-home mom, her and her daughter are kind of crazy, and so she kind of has to suffer through, in a way, being abused by this woman, this mom and her daughter. And the husband is like so awesome, so amazing. She's like, how did this pair work and everything? And she's just kind of navigating the family in her own way. And as horrible of a job as it is, she's like, I can't give this up. Like, it's such a good high paying job and nobody else is gonna hire me right now, and they have no idea I'm a convicted felon. So she's just trying to stick it through, and then a bunch of crazy things start happening, and she's like, this woman is mentally ill, like what, she's gonna kill me or something, what do I do? So that is essentially the story. But honestly, the first half of the book wasn't as fast paced, but then the last half I like flew through it, so totally recommend this book. The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. So this is another fun, cool, fast-paced, bright romance for the most part. There are some like little darker tidbits in it, but like for the most part it's like a beautiful romance. The Bodyguard, the main character, she is actually like an undercover bodyguard, and undercover because no one would think like a beautiful young little woman is a bodyguard, but you know, she's like trained in martial arts and can hold a gun, hold a knife, whatever. She gets put on this job to be the bodyguard of a famous actor, and for a while he was kind of in hiding. He didn't really care about being in the limelight anymore, but then his mother got sick, and in order to visit her and not stress her out, make her more sick, he's like, I'm gonna need a bodyguard because I have a stalker, but because I don't want to stress my mom out, you have to pretend to be my girlfriend. And so the bodyguard's like, what the heck, but like, this is my job, I have to do it. So she does it, and forced proximity, you know, everything, they fall in love, and it's a beautiful love story. And I think a lot of the other tidbits in the book, like her dealing with her own mother's death, even though she wasn't close to her mother, I think that was beautifully told. And then also the fact that like before she became his bodyguard, her and her boyfriend had just, at the time, had just broken up because he was like, I feel like you don't know what love is. But then through the famous guy, she learns what love is. But anyway, it's a really cute story, really fast paced, really quick to get through, easy to read. So, and then the last romance book, and just book in general that I'm gonna put here, in the last gay romance as well, the third in this list, is Red, White, and Royal Blue. I just have to tell you guys, literally this book is probably like top 3 so far of this year. Like literally this book was so good. Not only was it like a fast-paced, like fun, like the idea of that romance is just like, who thought of this? Like this is kind of crazy and far-fetched, but it's like so funny. And like, oh my god, the dialogue and everything and the characters are hilarious. Like I was genuinely like cackling when I was reading this book. Like I can't even explain to you. I had literally the time of my life when I was reading this. So if you don't know what this book's about, essentially the president of the United States, who in the movie, I watched the movie after, it was kind of cringe, but like so worth watching it. The president of the United States, who was a woman, played by Uma Thurman, has a son who is half Latino because her husband is Latino, so he's half Mexican. Hey! The son of the president of the United States, so the first son of the United States, meets and basically falls in love with, they're like rivals to lovers with the Queen of England. So in the book it's the Queen of England, but in the movie it's the King of England. I don't understand, but the Queen of England's son, so a Prince of England, they meet, they become rivals, they kind of like hate each other because they're like put against each other like constantly. And the Prince of England, like he kind of always had a thing for the first president, or the first son of the United States, because he's like very gay, like he knows he's gay. But then the first son of the United States, like he doesn't know he's gay, but then he like starts having feelings for him, and then he's like, oh, maybe I'm gay, and then they fall in love, and it's amazing. So either way, that is the end of this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope somebody gets something from this video and they read one of these books and they think they're all amazing. So I hope you get to experience that, and if not, either way, I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.